Hi, this is Peter Murphy here from howtotalkwithconfidence.com. Today we're going to talk about how you can make interesting conversation with anyone you meet. Even if you've worried before about being boring, or let's say getting stuck for words when you meet people, as long as you use the tactics we're going to talk about today, you'll find it a lot easier to get a conversation going and to have an interesting conversation when you meet people. Let's start first of all by looking at some of the common mistakes we all make from time to time when it comes to talking to people. And the reason we're going to look at these negatives is so that we can identify what we're already doing. You may find that you're doing a lot of these habitually already. So just simply by noticing this, you can start to drop these habits and start to be a bit more positive instead. The first common mistake is speaking without enthusiasm. If when you're talking to people, you're not putting enthusiasm and energy into the way you speak, you're going to come across as not being as interesting as you could be. Second common mistake is not listening carefully when the other person is speaking. When someone is speaking, they're going to show you what they're interested in. They're going to give you clues as to what they find interesting. And they do that with their voice tone and with their body language. Body language such as changes in posture and changes in their facial expression. So that's something that you really need to be looking out for. Another issue is failing to share your opinions and failing to talk about what you find interesting. If you don't do that, you're making it more difficult for people to get to know you, and you make it harder for them to get engaged and involved in the conversation. Another common mistake is getting stuck into a day-to-day routine that starts to grind you down, that starts to make you feel that life is boring. If you start to feel like that, it will come across in your conversation. And finally, in terms of common mistakes we need to avoid, here's a few more. The first one is hoping the other person will rescue you if the conversation grinds to a halt. If that happens, it's a lot better for you to be proactive, to take charge, and to see if you can steer the conversation in a new direction. And here's a big one. If we have a fear that we're going to bore people, that negative thought is going to affect how we communicate. It's going to make us nervous, it's going to make us tense, and it could even make your mind go blank because you're trying to second guess yourself. And the last common mistake is having a very narrow focus when it comes to what you're interested in. If that's how you tend to be, you'll find that you don't have much to talk about when you meet people. So I would encourage you to actively stay informed and get interested in more and more issues that you can talk about. Let's move along now to some positive actions we can take. Generally, what I'd like you to do is to develop an active curiosity in life. First of all, decide that life is interesting. And secondly, allow people to be interesting. If you take on that new attitude, you'll find that you're a lot more excited when you meet people, and you're a lot more enthusiastic about learning about them and learning about what they're interested in. It's just a small shift in how you think, but it can make a big difference to the quality of the conversations. Related to that is deciding that you're going to find out what excites people. What is it that gets this person going? What is it that they're passionate about? Be a detective and go and find out, and you'll have a really great conversation. Another key point is to explore what's new in the world. Look around you. What's new in your home life? What's new at work? What's new in your community? Always be looking for what's going on. Always be looking for what's new and what's interesting. And you'll have a lot more to talk about, and you'll be a lot more excited when you do talk about it. Finally, when you're speaking to people, make a point of looking for what you have in common. look for what you have in common in terms of values and beliefs. That is, you're looking for what's important to other people and what they're really interested in and what they focus on. And that, again, is just an attitude. You look for that and you'll start to find it. Let's talk now about tactics you can start using right away. The first one is to add more variety to the way that you talk. Vary your voice tone and the volume, and you will be more interesting for other people. All this variety, and especially when you put energy into it, makes you more interesting to listen to. Secondly, be dynamic in terms of how you use your body language and make a point of breathing more deeply. Do that and you'll naturally be more enthusiastic and a lot more energetic. And those qualities really attract people. Another simple tactic is to ask people directly about what they're interested in. Now that might sound obvious, but sometimes we're fumbling in the dark. We're guessing and we're wondering. Why not just ask directly? And of course, all of the time, watch very carefully when the other person is speaking. When you suggest a new topic, pay close attention to the non-verbal response. When they say they're interested, are they being polite? Or can you see from their non-verbal response, by their body language, that they are genuinely interested? A few more simple tactics you can start using. The first one is to talk about what the other person is interested in first. If you do that, you'll find that they warm to you and the conversation gets started on a nice positive footing. Also, I like to have an attitude of fishing for clues. When you're talking to someone, you don't need to hit a home run right away. You could suggest one topic, you mightn't get anywhere. You suggest a second topic, you might do a little bit better. And then you might suggest a new topic, and suddenly the conversation takes on a life of its own. So what I'm saying is, be like a fisherman. You keep fishing until you catch something. Don't expect to necessarily get a great topic right away. Just keep going. Also, when you're looking for something of interest to talk about, ask open questions. You see, if you ask a closed question, you're going to get either a yes or a no response, and that doesn't really drive the conversation anywhere. So instead, ask open questions such as who, what, when, where, or how. These questions open up the conversation and encourage people to get talking. And the last simple tactic, and this is, even though it's simple, this is a very powerful way of getting people engaged in the conversation. I'd like to encourage you to be provocative when it comes to personal disclosure. What do I mean? What I mean is, if you're introducing some information or changing the topic of discussion, make it interesting when you lead into that new topic. For example, if I was talking to you and I said, I'm excited about the weekend, I've got something interesting planned, I'm being provocative, I'm being mysterious. I'm not telling you what I'm doing, but I'm drawing you in and I'm getting you interested. So that's how you do it. You just lead in, be a little secretive, and then you tell people what you're doing. So to wrap up, here's some simple action steps that you can start using right away to make all of your conversations more interesting. The first one is to start using these tips today. Don't put it off. Don't think, okay, that was interesting, I'll come back to this next week. Pick at least one or two tips and make a point of using them right away. Secondly, I want you to aim to improve just a little each day. The problem with a lot of self-help is that we get excited and we think, okay, I want to go from where I am today to this ultimate state of perfection. But the gap is too great. And what happens is we get frustrated. So instead, I want you to aim to improve just a little each day.